Today's episode, we're going to be laser focused on anxiety during menopause and 3 areas that you can focus on that will really make a difference to your experience. Okay, so anxiety itself, what is it? So the Oxford Dictionary defines anxiety as a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease about something with an uncertain outcome. I think when you consider that and the changes that we're going through and experience as we go through perimenopause and menopause and back out the other side, um, it's not really surprising, is it, that we start experiencing symptoms like anxiety and low mood. So anxiety during menopause is really, really common. Statistics vary between sources, but tend to be around about the 50% mark. So that's about half of all women. A lot of the women that I work with as well describe it as something they've never suffered with in their life, and it has completely hit them sideways or has been something that's like kind of crept up really slowly. But either way, it tends to take them really by surprise. These are like busy professional women that have been in demanding roles all their lives, are now, experiencing crippling anxiety that's affecting them in all aspects of their life. So how do I see this in my clients? So clients often talk to me about have fear of driving. So getting in the car and driving an unfamiliar route or a long distance, or fear that they're, like catastrophizing. I can never say that word, but, worrying if, they're going to hit the central reservation. But it could be like driving at night time. So something that kind of has never been there before, but then starts. Or it could be like traveling on the train, being in public places. I tend to see my clients getting less sociable, not wanting to go out so much, and feeling it at work. So you might not have previously been concerned about speaking publicly in meetings, but now feeling like, what if you forget something? And we know that statistics tell us that about 10% of women will leave their job during menopause because of how it's affected their confidence. But that would be an episode, I think, for another whole time. And how you might feel it in your body. So you might notice the sensations before you can actually put a name to it. So it could be your heart racing, like palpitations, noticing you're getting sweaty, a dry mouth, panic attack. Again, so that might kind of present around those kind of travel situations. But the main thing to know is you're definitely not alone in this, and there's plenty that can be done to help, both in the short term and long term, to get you the outcome that you want and feeling like yourself again. So what is actually going on during this time? So changes in your hormones, particularly during perimenopause, are also leading to changes in your brain. So this is why anxiety tends to overlap a lot with other symptoms like low mood, depression, rage. So I think acknowledging that first off is like your first step to getting the problem sorted. Stress, huge contributor to this. We know that estrogen has protective benefits against cortisol, which is one of your stress hormones. So less estrogen means more stress for you, even if your stress levels in day-to-day life haven't increased at all. You're just not able to cope with those changes quite so well. And menopause, as we talked about before, it tends to hit at a time when you're probably going to be the most stressed you're ever going to be. So, you're at the peak of your career professionally. You might have hormonal teenagers at home. You're spinning lots of plates. You've got lots of responsibilities. So that's, again, another important aspect to realise and to make sure that you prioritise your own self-care so you can have a better experience. But also knowing that your adrenal glands are able to produce a backup type of estrogen, not the same type and nowhere near as much as what your ovaries do, but it's enough to kind of help smooth you through that transition. Now, if your body is in a position where it's chronically stressed, then your adrenal glands aren't going to be able to prioritize that type of estrogen because they're going to be constantly pumping out those stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. And then you're kind of stuck in this vicious cycle, aren't you, where you're chronically stressed that you can't really calm down because you've got less estrogen. So again, another area to really focus on. And knowing that serotonin levels take a bit of a dip as well during menopause. So serotonin is like your feel-good neurotransmitter. We know about 95% of that is produced in your gastrointestinal tract. And we know that your microbiome takes a dip as well during perimenopause and menopause. So knowing that, you can then shift your focus on your diet to improve that, to improve the amount of serotonin that's being produced. And again, that will support you to help alleviate that symptom. So as always, I'm going to break this down into really super simple things that you can take away from the episode that you can go and put in place to really help you rein in that menopausal anxiety. Number one, we're going to start with breath work. So your breath enables you to directly tap into your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's your rest and digest state. Now you take around 21,000 breaths per day. And your body, your brain is constantly reading those signals to check if you're in danger or not. Now, one of the ways it does that is by monitoring your breathing. So if you're breathing in a way that is shallow, is quite fast, like you're breathing to your chest, your shoulders are tight, that is signaling that you're in danger, that you're in this stress state, that you need to run away from something. Then imagine that versus longer, slower, deeper breaths, then that's telling your body that you're safe, that you're able to relax. Now, if you do like a quick Google search or wherever you like to look things up, you'll quickly come across breathing techniques that can help you in particular situations or help calm you down. But I don't think that's the right place for you actually to be starting. Most of us have picked up breathing dysfunctions or just simply bad habits over the course of our lifetime that have become habitual, that have become the way that we breathe naturally from day to day. So even if you're just sitting at home on the sofa, I don't know, watching EastEnders or MasterChef, simply by the way that you're breathing, you're telling your body that you're not safe. Now, you might feel that constant tightness in your shoulders or your neck. So coming in for a breathing assessment will enable you to quickly rectify those habits. And then you will see benefits like super quickly. I'd say within 2 weeks, you'd start seeing a difference. Changing the way you breathe all of the time is going to have a much greater impact than a few breathing techniques. So if this is of interest to you, I do have an episode already recorded where it will help you start to recognize some of your own breathing patterns. And I will put the link to that up here if you're watching on YouTube, but I will also put the link into the episode notes so you can go and tune into that episode. Okay, so the number 2 area for you to focus on is hormone replacement therapy. So I see many women who present themselves first to their GP with symptoms of anxiety, maybe not aware that some of the other symptoms that they're experiencing could be related to menopause. So they're going in not really prepared that this could be perimenopause. So presenting just with anxiety. And then they end up getting prescribed antidepressants, which in a lot of circumstances may not end up working. And that's because you're not treating the root cause or the reason why you're experiencing anxiety. And that's because it's hormonal. There will be situations where antidepressants can be of benefit. If you've had an underlying anxiety disorder, then that could be beneficial to take antidepressants alongside HRT. But these are all things that you need to discuss with your prescriber. If you have already been prescribed antidepressants and you find they're not working, then would definitely be worth you going back to your prescriber and discussing the possibility of taking hormone replacement therapy, even if it's like a 3-month trial and then a review at the end of that, just so you can see if it does have an impact for you or not. And then you'll know that the reason for your anxiety is because of your hormones rather than another underlying reason. Okay, diet. So the key diet is really important in terms of variety, plant-based variety, and trying to work on increasing that serotonin that we were talking about at the beginning. So the more variety you have in your diet, the more good bacteria you have in your gut, which means more happy hormones for you. So really easy simple ways of doing this again: reducing the amount of processed food that you eat, decreasing the amount of alcohol you consume, increasing the amount of food you cook from scratch. And if you choose just one new recipe a week with plants that you don't normally have, you can see that that will have a cumulative effect. So over the course of a month, over the course of a year, that's going to be quite a significant amount of different plants that you've incorporated in your diet that you wouldn't have done ordinarily. So staying with diet, omega-3, oily fish, so things like salmon, trout, mackerel. You can also get this from plants, so things like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts. We know diets higher in protein and these kind of healthy fats have been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety, whilst high-carb diets increase symptoms of anxiety. And there's lots of other benefits to omega-3s too, like supporting your heart health, which is really important in menopausal and postmenopausal women. Cardiovascular disease is the number one cause of death in that age group. And then lastly, focusing on drinking enough water. These basics are so often taken for granted and overlooked. So there was a recent study that showed about a third of middle-aged adults are dehydrated at any one time, and that has a significant impact on decision making. And again, there was a study in 2018 of 3,000 adults and found that those that drank more water had lower risk of anxiety and depression versus those who drank less. Again, the takeaway here is really simple tweaks and adjustments to your diet and lifestyle can have far-reaching effects for symptoms like anxiety, low mood, and depression. And this is like my area where I specialize in. So the takeaways from this episode for you: increase the variety in your diet, drink more water, make sure you're including at least 2 portions of omega-3s per week, chard tea if you want to consider that route. And last but not least, my favourite thing to incorporate, breathwork. And if you'd like to work with me personally on that, I carry out my breathing assessments and reviews in person in Brightlingsea, just along the Essex coast. But I can also do those online too. So get in touch with me if you'd like to have support with that. And again, I'll put the details in the notes. So let me know in the comments what you will change as a result of listening to this episode. Thanks as always for tuning in and for listening. I really do appreciate the support. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you hit the like button and share with someone you know. Thanks again, and I shall see you next time. Bye.